So this is a really short video. It's not a full patch. It's kind of an addendum to Beginner's Mind episode 3, which I just uploaded yesterday. And it uses the same patch, but it uses it and puts it in the context of a regular song, a kind of rock style song that I've just been recording that I'm working on, just an idea really. But I wanted to show what a modular patch might look like, the different ways you could use it in kind of so quote-unquote regular music, regular songs, which I've been starting to do. And there are obviously a lot of different ways you can do that. You can create ambient background stuff, that's pretty easy to do. You can do drone stuff. You can use MIDI to CV modules like this one, Yarns, where you send MIDI from your computer, for example. It sends out CV and gate information like a regular sequencer, and you could play melodies or bass lines with that and send all the information for the notes from your computer so that it lines up with the song that you're recording. I'll try and make a video on that in future. But in this one, since I had a drum patch from the previous video, I wanted to see what it would look like to just throw that drum patch into a song and just, see what that's like, because it's kind of weird. It's not something I've really experimented with much before. So I've taken the patch that I used in the last video, Beginner's Mind episode 3, where I was kind of showing sequencers and triggering sounds from the stereo triggered sampler from sequencers. And I'm using the same patch here. This is what it sounds like. So remember, we've got a clock coming from Pamela's workout into two clocks coming into the X and Y axis. That's why this is all jumping around here. Okay, now to make that a little more interesting, we can modulate the pitch here by using the 1 volt per octave. So that'll make the drum sounds change a little bit. And what we can do is what if we change different sounds, change the bank of the samples that are being played? sounds like R2D2. So I don't know how useful you think that would be. I think it's pretty cool. Obviously, if you wanted to use something like that in a track, you maybe push it back a little bit towards the back of the track just to add some texture, some movement. But it does add some really unpredictable, weird sounds that I guess you could make without a modular, but I don't know how I would make something that random. Okay. And now what I can do is I can start changing the pitch knob so that we start getting some kind of sequence, maybe with notes. Just to make it a little more interesting, I'd like to take the sub output of the Dixie also. It has all these different outputs. Take the sub output and run that into another channel of the Optimix. Let's see what that sounds like. Okay, so you might hear that that's adding a lower octave below the main line. So that's interesting. That makes it a little more interesting. And to add a little more randomness, the Rene has a Y mod and X mod. So instead of just clocking it normally, you can influence it and add a kind of degree of randomness by modulating the way it moves around. And I'm going to use a LFO, just a regular sine, slow sine LFO from the Batumi. So you can see even with the clock off, it's slowly moving it on the y-axis. And so what that does is it's going to add a little bit of randomness to what's happening. I can actually do that with the square wave too. It'll be a little bit clearer. What am I doing there? Mess that up. The square wave. Okay, you hear that? So that's now moving this. But that is going to be added to the clock when the clock comes in. So the two are going to be on top of each other. It's going to add a little more randomness so that the sequence doesn't just keep repeating in a linear way all the time. So let's hear what that sounds like. Might be a little too fast, might be a little too random there. So let's just slow that down so that it's going to add little bits of randomness, but not so often. Really slow. Now let's hear what that sounds like when we put that into the song. Happens if we turn this up and up. So, okay, that's a bit chaotic, a little bit crazy, but might give you a sense of just some creative things you could do. Now, if I sent MIDI out, if I programmed a bass line, for example, and said MIDI out and used yarns to just send CV and gate instead of the René, we'd get something much more standard, and I'll try and do a future video and show that. But this is kind of... But that, you could just use a soft synth for that, or just use a regular synthesizer. You wouldn't have to use a modular. So this is just to kind of show some of the randomness and craziness you can get in using a modular. It might not be as musical, but it's certainly different and kind of more. It can be more interesting depending on what you want to do. So thanks for watching.